Hey there, and welcome. So, let's talk about something that's, a pretty fundamental part of the human experience for about half the population, menstruation. It feels like this monthly thing we know inside and out. But what if I told you that what we think we know, especially in the grand scheme of the natural world, might be, well, a little off? Okay, let's just jump right in with the big one. Are we the only ones? Seriously, when you picture the animal kingdom, do you imagine any other species going through a monthly cycle just like us? The answer is probably not what you're expecting. So before we can even start comparing ourselves to the rest of the animal kingdom, we've got to set our baseline. We need to be crystal clear on what we're actually talking about when we say menstruation, at least from a human point of view. At its most basic, it's a cycle where the body gets the uterus all ready for a potential pregnancy, building up this thick, nutrient-rich lining. But if that pregnancy doesn't happen, the body doesn't just, reset quietly. It actively sheds that lining. And that process is what we call a period. Now remember that word sheds, because it is the absolute key to this entire mystery. All right, we've got our human baseline locked in. So let's turn our gaze to the rest of the planet. If shedding is the norm for us, it's got to be for other mammals too, right? Well, this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn. And here it is, the big reveal. That whole process of visible shedding, it's not the standard operating procedure out there, not at all. In fact, it's exceptionally rare. The vast majority of mammals have a completely different way of handling their reproductive cycles. So if they aren't menstruating, what exactly is going on? Well, they experience something called an estrous cycle. You've probably heard of it as being in heat. It's that recurring window of time when the female is fertile, sexually receptive, and basically ready to meet. And here is the fundamental difference, the whole pivot point. In the human menstrual cycle, that uterine lining sheds. It actually exits the body. But in the estrous cycle, that same lining is simply reabsorbed. The body just kind of tidies it up internally. No mess, no fuss, no visible trace. That one single change explains pretty much everything. And there's even variation within this system. Some animals are monoestrous, meaning they go into heat just once a year. Others are polyestrous, cycling through multiple times. It's all about what works best for that species' survival. But all this doesn't mean we're completely on our own here. Okay, so we've established that what we experience is rare, but it's not exclusive to humans. It turns out we do share this pretty unusual biological trait with a very specific group of relatives. That's right. When we look to our closest living relatives on the evolutionary tree, other primates, we finally start to see some biology that looks familiar. They are the major exception to that no menstruation rule we see almost everywhere else. And the guest list includes some pretty famous faces: chimpanzees, orangutans, gorillas, and different kinds of monkeys like macaques and baboons. All of them have a reproductive cycle that involves shedding the uterine lining. Now, the details, like the timing and the amount, can vary quite a bit from species to species, but the basic process is there. So we share the biology with some primates. Case closed, right? Nope. Not even close. Because beyond the internal mechanics, there is a massive, profound difference that really sets humans apart. And it has everything to do with behavior. And this brings us to what might be the most surprising twist in the whole story. It's not about the internal plumbing anymore. It's about external communication. It's all about the signals being sent. Or in our case, the signals that are not being sent. And this is where humans take a radical departure from pretty much everyone else. Just look at that split. For most of the animal kingdom, fertility is advertised. It's put on display, loud and clear. When an animal is ready to mate, it sends out these unmistakable signals, scents, sounds, physical changes. There's no mystery. But for humans, it's the complete opposite. Our fertility is concealed. There are no obvious external signs that ovulation is happening. So what does this all mean when you put it all together? Well, it's this incredible reminder of the sheer diversity of evolution. There's not just one right way to do things. No single playbook for reproduction. Nature has come up with this stunning variety of strategies, from shedding to reabsorbing, and from shouting fertility from the rooftops to keeping it a total secret. And all of that leaves us with this one massive question. Why us? Why did our evolutionary path lead to this super unique combo? A physically obvious menstrual cycle, but a completely hidden fertile window. What on earth does that tell us about how our societies, our relationships, and even our entire species came to be? Now that is the real mystery